Hello, 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 my beloved souls. I am Autumn, the Enlightened Daughter. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Hello, High Vibe Tribe. I love you so much. So I was guided to give you guys like the origin story of the Enlightened Daughter. Um, I'm not sure why that's so relevant at this point in time, or maybe who is like inquiring or who wants to know. But anyway, so that's what this reading is about. It's just how I became a life, sex, and spirituality coach for those of you who wanted to know kind of like my journey and why I do the work that I do. Um, so hey, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Autumn, the Enlightened Daughter. I have been fully full time in spirituality work, I want to say, for about 3 or 4 years. I want to say I'll say a solid 3 years, and that's only because that's when I started my YouTube channel specifically for the work that I'm doing. Although I was doing work way before then, it just wasn't on a global scale, right? It was very local, very like just within my tribe. So I've been a full-time reader, coach, healer, um, energy worker, light worker for like the past 3 years, officially, meaning that like I don't do anything else but work for God. People ask me all the time, they're like, "Oh, don't you get days off?" And I'm like, "Heaven's never closed, so you know, text me." Most of the time I'm up, which sucks, but it's true. So anyway, um, let's go all the way back. So I from New York, grew up in New York. I'm a 70s baby, so I grew up during the dope era. I grew up during the crack era. I grew up when hip hop started. I remember when it changed over to gangster rap, and now it's whatever this thing is that it's become today. Um, yeah, gross. Um, and I grew up in a family that was Baptist Methodist, I want to say. My grandmother grew up kind of in a Methodist church. She's from the South. She used to work on cotton farms. Her and her sister came up north, my grandaunt, and they both established themselves in New York City, had their own families here. My grandmother was a single mother. My mother was a teenage mom. She's a single mother. So I grew up around a lot of single women. Again, I'm a 70s, 80s baby. So there was a lot of money around, but it was drug money. It was pimp money. It was pain, destruction of households, right? So in comes the poverty consciousness, in comes the money blocks because money is related with drugs, death, alcoholism, abuse, prostitution, all the things that were harming the community, right? And, I went listen, I love my family so much, right? Like I chose them, they incarnated, we're gonna do big work. There's a lot of pain within my family structure. And growing up, my mom was a teenage mom, obviously, so I was with my grandmother a lot, right? My nana. She's the one that took me to church. She was always reading the Bible every night. She's the one that taught me about praying. So I had a very strong spiritual background foundation, but I had a problem with what was being preached, how it was being preached. It just didn't make sense to me, right? It didn't make sense for me to go to church every week and to basically just hear a man talk about another man in his house. It was weird to me. It was like, this is God's house, but we're going to spend a good 45 minutes talking about the devil. In the last 15 minutes, I'm going to bring God or Jesus in, get some money real quick, and we're out. Like, it was so distorted to me. That was a distortion to me. Constantly talking about Satan and God's house was weird to me because I'm like, what man wants to hear about another man in his house all day long? Like, as a human being, like, do you know a man that wants to hear another man's name coming out your mouth all day, every day in his house? I don't know. I don't know one man that's okay with that. And we're talking on a human level. Imagine like the Most High God. Anyway, or feeling like women were less than, right? Like you're less than. You're here to serve man. You came second. Like it was just all this stuff that I was growing up in church. It just didn't sit right with me, right? And it was never my issue with God. Like me and God were kind of cool. Like I understood the purpose, right? I guess I understood like the creator, but I didn't understand the distortion. I didn't understand the messages of hate. I didn't understand why everybody was talking about this devil person. They wasn't really talking about God unless they want to talk about Jesus, but he was like a dead man hanging on the cross. It was just so weird to me. There was just so much that didn't make sense, so much that did not resolve with my spirit. And but still in that, I would hear these truths, these pockets of truths do still come in. Um, and so I would hear these truths. And then I felt the spirit call me when I was like in my teens. Again, I'm growing up in the hood in a single family household, around a lot of abuse all the time. All the time. Again, guys, I'm a 70s, 80s baby from New York. It was a regular thing to see somebody beating the shit out of their kids, beating the shit out of their wife, beating the shit out of each other. Alcoholism, drug addiction, you're seeing people nodding off in the staircase or, nodding off on the sidewalk, or there's crack vials all over the floor. Or, you hear couples arguing, you see a guy just like hit a fucking female like she a grown man and nobody's doing nothing, 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 nothing. My mom was in so many abusive relationships, and I just remember one time like running to like there was like a booth near I think we had like a halfway house or something like that where I lived, correction correctional facility, whatever it was, but there was like a police person within the booth, right? And I remember like being a little girl and like running to him and like needing help and like crying and being like, "Can you help my mom? Like this guy's beating up my mom." And the guy was like, "Oh, I'm sure somebody's gonna call the police and do something." And I'm like, "You're the police." But it was like, yeah, I'm here to watch the booth. Like, I'm not here to actually like help you, little girl. And I remember like just that feeling of dejection, of just like feeling so disempowered, feeling so powerless, and never wanting to feel like that. And that was a regular thing for me growing up, like just watching my mother, and not just my mother, I mean other women in my family too, but obviously in my household, like just watching my mother go from abusive relationship to abusive relationship, and just knowing in my mind like that's a deal breaker for me. Like you're not gonna fucking be sitting here beating on me like I'm a fucking man. Like those are deal breakers to me, right? And so throughout the years, learning these lessons and then going to church and then hearing people basically be like, "Yeah, you're a woman, you're lesson." And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense that God would create me to be nothing. Like it just like, I'm just like, how can God love me and hate me at the same time? Like conundrum, conundrum, conundrum. Go back early childhood, single mother household. My father kind of was pushed out of the story, I'll say. I don't say he necessarily left because it wasn't just like a solo thing, but he was definitely like pushed out of the story. And in comes my stepdad, right? My mom marries my stepfather. They're doing their thing. Um, I'm an only child for a while until she gets pregnant with my sister. I end up being sexually assaulted by one of the neighbors' kids because children abuse children too. People forget that. People are like, why don't your kids spend the night? I'm like, y'all are so busy worried about the adults all the time. And it does seem kind of predatory out there when you're watching like How to Catch a Fucking Predator and stuff like that. But children abuse children too. Like I think people need to understand that. I was about like 4 or 5 years old when things went on with another child that should never have gone on, directed by their older sibling, right? So, first time sexually abused, like 4 or 5 years old. Um, being told by his older sister, like, if you don't do whatever he wants, he's not going to play with you anymore. You're a baby. I'm a toddler. Like, you do whatever, you're guided to do. It might have been a little older. No, I want to say like it's like 5. I want to say it was like 5 because it's a very vivid memory, and I remember like having to like go to school and deal with stuff afterwards. Um, so like starting off there and sexually abused early. It didn't, for a lot of people, sexual abuse can go one of two ways. They either kind of like shut all the way down or they kind of become promiscuous, right? So I wasn't like anything. I didn't become sexually active until I was like, I want to say like 15 or 16 years old. And I was in a deep long-term relationship with, we were going to get married, the whole thing. And I was like, you're going to marry in high school? Whatever. But anyway, all throughout all the stuff that's happening within my life, right? The sexual assault, the abusive households, moving around a lot. We moved from place to place to place to place. There was a lot of instability when it came to my foundation. We lived with my grandmother, my stepfather's parents. We had our own home. We lost our own home. My stepfather ended up becoming addicted to crack during the 80s. So my sister was born and he became an addict. So had all of that again back with his parents. And then started abusing my mom. So then we ended up with her mom. And then, but they lived in the same building, his mom and her mom. And it was just a lot, right? It was just a lot. And as well throughout my childhood, you know how a lot of people get together for, family reunions and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, I haven't seen you cuz blah blah blah. I was getting together with my family like every few weeks or maybe a couple of months it felt like. For like the before I want to say before I was like 7 years old, I had probably been to over 20 funerals. Easy. Hands down. Easy hands down about 20 funerals. And I'm sorry guys, my hair keeps falling and I keep clipping it, but it's not staying. Um So I don't do funerals, right? People ask me now, they're like, "What? You don't?" I don't do funerals. I'm good. I said goodbye a million times to a million people in a million ways. I'm good. I don't do funerals. One, I don't do funerals just because I now feel the energy of the person that's crossed over, and when we're having a funeral for them, they're not suffering and pain, crying. They're not doing none of that. Like they're chilling, living their best life. They're in so much joy. They're feeling so good. They're feeling so much love. Like they're trying to pour that into us, right? And then, but the people that are there kind of close off because they're, in a lower vibration because they're feeling sadness and grief, right? So for me, I can't be there because I'm feeling the high vibration. So now I'm laughing. So people think it's. I'm not trying to be an asshole because I'm laughing at your funeral. I'm laughing because I feel that energy. So I just avoid funerals to avoid these conversations because people don't really understand. And I'm not going to sit there and keep going back and forth trying to explain to you that I'm not laughing at your dead grandma because she's laughing and I'm laughing with her, not at her. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so did a lot of stuff. But in my family continuously dying, 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 and I mean so many funerals that I got to the point, and I'm going to church with my grandmother, right? So I'm listening to these messages about an all loving, all knowing, all omnipotent God, and then I'm turning around and watching my family get killed or die. Both was happening actually. Um, and I'm like, so God hates my family, basically, right? Because then if we're going by the Old Testament and all these stories that I hear about this God that's going to punish you, evidently we were cursed and we were being punished because people kept dying, right? This is, I'm a kid, I'm doing my math, right? 2 plus 2 equals 4. So it took years of me being mad at God and being like, well, if it's fuck us, then fuck you, dude. Like, if you don't love us, then why should I love you? Why should I pray to you? Why should I care about anything you have to say? Because obviously you hate us. You're so mad at us, right? And so for years, I was pissed off at God. Years I was pissed off at God. I'm watching my mom get abused. We're moving from house to house. It's like we can never get ahead. I'm watching people in my community just die. I'm watching my family die. Like there was just all this stuff that was just like there is no possible way that you can be an all loving God. It's impossible. It's impossible for you to love us and for this to be my life. Like you're bugging, right? So years go by, years go by, years go by. Now I always believe in God, right? Have conversations with people about God, know my Bible, talking to people, will check you in a minute if you talk crazy about God or Jesus. I had my own reasons to be mad, but that doesn't mean that you got to be disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you have an argument with like your sibling or your parent. Like I could say whatever the fuck I want to say about my mother because she's my mother, but you better watch your mouth because that's my mother. You know what I'm saying? It's like that conversation. So that's how I would handle people with God and Jesus. Like I'm like, no, I'm mad at him for my own personal reasons, but talk to me nice and watch your mouth when it comes to my father and my brother. You know what I'm saying? So years this goes on, right? And I'm going to tell you guys this very clearly that I learned in all that time. The devil will give you a good life to keep you from seeking a great life with God. The devil will give you a good life to prevent you from seeking a great life with God. Hands down. Shit will be smooth and kind of easy and kind of calm so that you don't seek greater, so that you don't look higher, so that you don't go deeper, so that you don't question things, right? Yeah, you might have a little hiccup here or there, but you're making pretty good money and that relationship isn't great, but your life isn't horrible. My life was fine. My life was pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like I was in a relationship. It wasn't the healthiest relationship, but I could fucking handle it. I was working. It wasn't like a lifetime career, but I was fine. Like everything was fine. But there was always this like emptiness, right? And in all of that time, even with me being mad at God, I was still pouring into people. I was still preaching people. One of my spiritual gifts is to be an encourager, right? I encourage, I motivate, I inspire. I have been doing this my entire life. I can get on a stage in front of a million people and command a room and not think twice about it and not get nervous. It is just something that is very innate to me. I know that now as a gift, from God, as being the mouth of God. That's why I talk my shit. I get it. Um, and so all throughout that time, I was preaching to people, I was coaching people, I was helping people. I was not happy, obviously, like in my house. I left home early. I went away to school. Um, so let me rewind too. Throughout those cycles, right? So sexual assault, I still had a lot of knowledge of assault. I Planned Parenthood when it started, and I was working with people at Planned Parenthood and teaching people about sex and sexuality and healthy ways of having oral sex. And so when condoms came out, I was teaching people how to use condoms. And I'm a virgin this entire time, right? But I know how to put a condom on with my mouth, with my hand, on the banana. I could do all the steps, right? I can show people how to give head, I was showing people, I was learning these things and helping my friends because I realized that a lot of my friends were confused. Now, the benefit of having a teenage mom is that sometimes they have inappropriate conversations with you and they teach you a little too much too soon, right? So my mom and I would be able to ask her anything, and that's one of my favorite parts about my childhood. With my mom is that I was able to ask her anything. She's like, I'd rather you ask me and get it right than ask one of your friends and have the wrong information. So whenever stuff would come up, I'd be like, Hey, mom, what about this? And she'd be and I'm like, my friend said. She's like, whatever, just here's the answer. Like she probably just didn't want to know why they were even asking that question most of the time, but here's the answer. So ended up working with Planned Parenthood, helping my friends, um, to explore safe ways to have sex, to teaching them about birth control and STDs and all this stuff, right? So, um, even being a virgin and not doing any of the things. I mean, like outside of like kissing and like first and second base, like I hadn't done any of the stuff. Even when I went to high school, I still hadn't done any of the things that my friends were talking about. But I pay attention. I watched a lot of movies. I read a lot of books. I worked at Planned Parenthood. You know what I mean? So it's like I didn't have to actually be an active participant to know how to do the thing. Again, I'm teaching people how to put a condom on using their mouth. You know what I mean? Never sucked before, but doesn't mean I don't know how to get the game started, right? Listening, I have a lot of guy friends. They're like, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this, I like this. So I'm in high school and I end up writing instructions on how to give head from the moment he's soft to how to get it hard to what to do all the way to the end to what to do after it gets soft again. Like I literally wrote out instructions. Same thing with cunnilingus, right? I wrote it out for my friends, printed it out, gave it out in high school. I was like, y'all are annoying. Like I'm so tired of people not being satisfied. Here's the instructions. Figure it out. You know what I mean? I.e., my sex coaching started in high school for you guys. Um, and I'm giving life advice throughout all this time. I'm going to church. I'm reading the Bible. I ended up going to a Quaker school for high school. So we had one, I learned, Quakers, they mind the light. So that was my first kind of like introduction to like meditation and silence and just really focusing our energy. And then we also had Bible study. Again, Christian girl here, Baptist Methodist, all that stuff. So fast forward, I go to culinary school, I'm working and I'm in New York, I'm in Miami, I'm in St. Thomas, I'm living my best life, I'm having a good life. Um, at one point, my stepfather had beat my mom so bad that they had ended up separating. And again, he's my stepdad. So to me, I don't ever have to see you again. It's quiet, right? But that's my sister's father. So she still dealt with him and their family and stuff. But I was older, right? My sister and I are 7 years apart. So I was like, I'm not dealing with him. Like, that's your father. You have to talk to him. Fantastic. I don't have to do none of that. So I cut any and everything that had to do with them off, right? For like 10 years. Again, I'm going back and forth with God. We're trying to work things out. People are coming into my life. Little things are happening. I'm giving glory to God. I'm giving praise to God. I'm just not understanding why he's mad at us, but it's fine. Um, in my seeking truth, in my going deeper in spiritual knowledge, in my reading the biblical and spiritual text for myself, I realized that I was mistaken. I was distorted. I misunderstood the message. Like, no, God loves us so much and loves you so much that you have the ability to do anything for the most part, even hurt yourself, even not love yourself, even not love your brother and your sister. Like, I'm thinking God is mad at us, but it's like, well, I'm not mad at you. I'm not telling my children to poison themselves with heroin and crack and to kill each other and to beat on one another. Like, no, I'm loving my child because I see that he's lost. I'm loving my child because I see that she's confused. I'm loving my child because I see that she just doesn't see another way. He doesn't know another way. Like, it took a long time for me to get those lessons. And it was through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. Um, a lot of the loss in my family and Miami. When I moved to Miami, that was a big catalyst because I was just watching people spiral. I was watching people spiral. I'm like, this is a beautiful city, wonderful weather. You're outside in the sunshine all day, and everybody was just like, zombie land. I'm just watching people just like lose themselves to coke and to crack and to fucking alcohol, and it was sad. Um, and my sister would reach out to me, every once in a while and be like, hey, grandma and grandpa asking about you, and I'd act like she wasn't even talking. Like, I'm like, I don't care about none of that. Like, I stood there and watched them watch their son beat the crap out of my mother. They have nothing to say to me. Like, do you understand? Like, I'm an Aries, so I can hold a grudge. And I was tight. For 10 years, I was tight. So I remember her reaching out, and I don't know, I must have been praying or just hollering at, the Most High at the beach in meditation or whatever. And I remember hearing God being like, all right, that's enough. Thinking about the family, about her family, my step parents, stepfather, whatever. And I'm like, talking to that's enough. That's not enough. Like, I thought I feel away. And I remember God being like, all right, well, that's enough. Like, enough with this. You were mad long enough. It's time to move on. And I'm like, but why? Like, I still feel away. Like, that didn't change. You can't undo that. And it was like, all right, Autumn, like, that's enough. And I remember I had like such attitude. When I tell you I had an attitude, ugh, I was tight. And I'm like, all right, but I had just started walking back with God. I'm like, I'm trust you. I'm gonna start trying to be obedient because I don't always like the stuff that you gotta say, and I feel the way. I feel like you're not paying attention, but I know you're not trying to play me. So, listen, it was a hard struggle. Again, I'm from Harlem, 70s, 80s, baby. I have a temper and an attitude a lot, and I'm an Aries. So I'm like, okay. So I remember going home. I was in New York, and my sister was going to see her father and his family, so I went with her. And I remember like opening, and again, they lived in the same building as my mother's mom. So I would see them every once in a while, walk past them, head nod if I saw them, and keep it moving. Did not go to the house, was not, no answering the phone, no nothing, no nothing, no nothing, no nothing. When I don't fuck with you and you dead to ashes, dust to dust. That's how I am. You know what I mean? So God resurrected them from the dead. It was like freaking Ezekiel with the freaking Valley of the Bones over there because it was like, oh shit, they're back from the dead. You know what I mean? The apocalypse is here. Um, so I go see them, kind of like not really resolve things, but just the energy of forgiveness was there. Like God was just like, all right, enough. Like it's time to forgive. You know, I was like, okay. Um, Shortly after that forgiveness and reestablishing a relationship with them, my step grandmother passed away. A couple of months after that, my stepfather passed away. So that needed to happen. Um, Before they crossed over. And I don't know if that needed to happen more so for me or for them because of the things that had occurred when I was a child that, they kind of just let play out. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it don't matter. You know what I mean? The energy of forgiveness is a healing balm for ourselves because why are we holding on to that poison, trying to harm somebody else when we're the ones that are hurting the whole time? And that was the lesson that I received in that and have been receiving from the energy of forgiveness and healing since then. And that's why I encourage it for you guys and I encourage it to everybody within the tribe and everyone within the collective. Forgiveness is for you. That healing balm is for you. There's no reason going around being angry and bitter and resentful to people for things that can no longer change and that are dead and gone. You know, a lot of these people are dead and gone and you ain't never going to see them again. So why are we still even talking about it, right? Anyway, so have that forgiveness lesson. I'm in this relationship with a freaking alcoholic in Miami, but you know, the sex is great. We get along and all these other things. So very toxic, you know, whatever relationship, but he's definitely one of my soulmates. Still a friend of mine, still a part of the tribe. Definitely came into my life for, you know, we were together for 10 years, so it wasn't like nothing, but he was not meant to be the end part of my story, right? He wasn't the one that was here to help me bring my children into this world. We had a lot of miscarriages. There was a lot of lessons in that relationship. And so all throughout this path, as I'm coaching people, as I'm giving people, and I mean, I'm coaching people my whole life. I'm having people over at my house. I'm having people live with me. I'm giving coaching advice. I'm on the phone with people. I'm giving them instructions. I mean, I'm literally giving people instructions on the phone as to what to do next when it comes to sex. I'm literally sitting down with couples and families, and we're reestablishing, like, you know, what they need to do, what they need to see, how things need to be changed within their dynamic and within their situation. You know, like, so I don't just go be like, hey, I'm a life, sex, and spirituality coach because I think it's like a fun little title to give myself. Like, I put in hundreds of thousands of hours of pouring my life and energy into people over the years, family, friends, co-workers in every business I've ever worked in, no matter what was going on within that restaurant, it was a better place after I left it because I established really great relationships. And that's not to like pat myself on the back, but I love my people, right? And I nurture people, and I'm a great mother, not just to the two that came out of me. I'm a great mother to the fucking collective. Like, if you're in my tribe, I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna nuzzle you. I'm gonna nurture you. I'm gonna do all the things that you need because that's what I needed, right? My mom wasn't soft, my grandmother wasn't soft. They were very hard, cold, women. Definitely lacked affection, you know. And so I know the value and the importance of love, of intimacy, of affection, not just on a physical level, but on a spiritual level, on a mental level, right? And so as I've been walking this path, as I've been doing this work, as God has called me forth more and more to step forward on this path. And again, I mean, I was doing some shit during those years. Um, you know, not only did I work with Planned Parenthood doing the sex stuff, but I also, because of all the stuff that was going on at home, I was like, I need to get out of here. So I started stripping at one point. I was doing amateur porn for several years, you know, so that's another reason that I'm a sex coach. I'm like, I promise you, I've had some of the best dick in the world, and it's not that serious. Like, everybody can everybody can figure it out. We'll be fine. Everybody can figure it out, right? Like, I promise you, we can work through whatever issue that you have going on right now, whether that's by yourself or with a partner. But so I stripped, I did porn, you know. So when I speak to sex, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, you know. When it comes to life coaching, again, I've been doing it my whole life, everyone, and I'm talking everybody there. I could put you on the phone with five people right now and they would be like, she changed my life. You know what I mean? Like, she was there when I needed her. She was posting on Instagram. That I get called and inspired to do all of these things, and it's not for me. I don't, like, right now, like, I don't know why the fuck I'm supposed to be telling y'all all my business. I really don't. But that was the message that I got, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta make sure I have some edges and do my makeup, you know? Like, I was like, let me put a wig on and get my life together, you know, because that was not what I was doing. I was actually exercising when I got inspired to do this message, which is probably why I look like a hot mess, because I was just like, I'm trying to figure it out. So, a lot of abandonment issues, foundational issues, sexual issues, right? Sexual assault, teaching people about sex, moving from home to home, and then having to heal all of that, right? And having to heal all of that. We heal through our relationships on this planet, right? And so, all of the things that my mother needed to heal with my grandmother, right? That may or may not have been healed. She was trying to heal throughout her relationships. Every distortion, every fucked up relationship, every mistake that my mom basically made when she had me, I lived through with her, right? And so, and this isn't like a judgment or, you know, whatever. My mom, like, she did the best she could. She was a fucking teenage mom. She did the best she could growing up in a time where abuse was the norm. And my grandmother was a very hard woman from the fucking South, you know, and she was dark like me. So imagine the abuses that she went through at the South, which is why she came up to the North. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot. And then me having to be in these relationships, you know, and I ended up with an addict, right? Like, he wasn't a crackhead like my stepfather, but he was a fucking alcoholic. Same shit, you know. Or my mom at one point, she had dated another crackhead who was kind of abusive, and but they had really great, like, you know, sexual chemistry. And then I ended up like in a kind of a relationship similar to that. And so I ended up like, I had to take a step back, you know. Teacher, I'm a healer, I'm a coach, and I have to, before I come to y'all with anything, I'm always checking myself. You know, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I don't come and sit here like I'm a high mighty on the throne because like I'm looking at you like, oh, you poor little soul. Like, no, I've been you, poor little soul. I've probably been worse than you. Like, you know, at least you had the fucking the gumption to get up out of the dirt. Like, I was eating dirt for fucking 5 years and like wiping it on my back and thinking that it was fucking gold. You know what I mean? Like, I've been through a lot of bullshit. I'm talking about fucked up relationships and abuse and lies and betrayal and stealing. And like, these are people that love you. These are the people that you live with. This is your partner, right? Like, how much betrayal is it to come home and to know that the person that you love, that you live with, that is offering you a future life together, just stole from you. You know what I mean? Why? Because they're a fucking addict and I'm supposed to be okay with that, or that's the excuse this week. You know what I mean? Like, I went through a lot of unnecessary shit. Um, and having to heal those distortions in my relationships, right? So having to heal the lack of love that my mother had for herself that she taught me to have for myself in my relationships, right? Because how can she teach me how to have a healthy relationship? She's never even had a healthy relationship, not with herself, not with anyone else, really, right? And so she's been learning her lessons over the years, you know, after I've grown up or whatever. But these are the things that I'm healing now so that my children do not have to go through this. I don't want my children having to dating the same person that I dated. I don't want my children dating that energy and having to heal through it. No, let me check myself now, right? And so this is why I go so hard on myself, and then that's why I'm here able to speak to the tribe. Um, and I show up for people every day, you know, every day, every single day. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. Talking to me on the bus, it's just who I am, you know. Um, So anyway, all these years go by and I'm still walking the path with the Most High, and I'm listening. I'm getting more and more obedient as the time is going, but I'm still not. This is not a full time thing, you know. Like, my relationship is being reestablished with God. I had stopped doing porn, and I didn't stop doing porn because God was like, "You need to stop doing porn." I stopped doing porn because I was like, if it doesn't pick up to the point where I wanted to pick up financially, by the time I hit 30, then it's quiet. It's a waste of time to me. You know what I mean? So, and it didn't. So I was like, all right, cool. Then I'm done with the porn industry. Like, that was fun. Thanks. You know what I mean? I was still doing my other work while, and I was still in the restaurant business, but, you know, that was extra money. And I didn't feel a kind of way about it. And I don't feel a kind of way about it now, even with all the work that I do. I'm very sensitive, you know, and I don't, with the sex coaching that I do, although there are times that sexual surrogates are needed and are used and could be used, I no longer offer those services myself, right? So that's something that I would like sublet out with someone else that I know could vibrationally hold that. But that was something that I did for a long time. I like having sex with people and healing them. You know what I mean? Consciously or unconsciously. And it's just not something that I'm doing anymore. But it's not like I can't help you do it. You know what I mean? You know how many people are freaking orgasmic now that are just like, thank you so much. I never came so hard in my life. And I'm like, you're welcome. Um, or just transforming people day at a time, you know, one thing at a time. Like, the reason I do spiritual calls, the quantum calls, and and, you know, I told you guys this before, but it's not everybody can afford a coach, right? Not everybody can afford to do 6 months with me, a year with me, even 3 months with me. But sometimes you just need a different perspective. Sometimes you're just going through something right now, or you just need a sounding board, and you need somebody who is impartial and is not going to judge you, right? I know, yes, there are therapists that do that as well. Um, and I'm not a therapist and I don't pretend to be, but the shit that we grow through on a day-to-day basis, some of the spiritual shit that you're going to see as you're ascending and as you're awakening, these aren't general conversations. You know what I mean? Like, you not, it's challenging to try to have a conversation with someone about your multidimensionality and, working with the elementals and fairies and dragons and shit like that without them thinking that you're losing your mind. Most of my family don't fuck with me right now, right? Because I am outside of the realm of Christianity. I have left the Bible and I have been like, oh, there's other books, right? And I walked away from the church and I'm an ordained minister. That happened during this time too. Ask about me. And I do things differently, right? Because again, when I'm reestablishing my relationship with the Most High and I'm getting the spiritual text sent to me, and I got a lot of text sent to me, it wasn't just the Bible that came forward when I started seeking wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. It was the Bible, it was the Quran, it was the Course in Miracles, it was um, books by like Abraham Hicks and Seth and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay. Like, there's all these different gurus and teachers across the globe that are pouring into us all the time. And then my connection with Yeshua went from like, oh, the guy on the sticks in the building to let me text my brother real quick and ask him what's up because I'm feeling kind of way. That's the kind of relationship I have with God. That's the kind of relationship I have with Jesus. That's the kind of relationship I have with the Holy Spirit. When I'm sitting here, I'm like, no, let me just ask him because I'm not gonna sit here and be bugging out. I'm confused. What's up? And Yeshua is what took me deeper past the Bible. Yeshua is the reason that I became um, an ordained minister, right? Reverend Hayes, yes, I am. Yeshua is the reason that I became a priestess of Mary Magdalene. Yeshua is the reason I have the relationship I have with Mary Magdalene. Yeshua is the reason that I became a temple priestess of Isis, right? How many people know that Yeshua or Jesus studied with Isis in the temples, right? Or he was in Asia for how many years studying there, right? A lot of people don't know these things. And so that's the path that I'm on. Like, I'm like absolutely embodying the Christ light, absolutely doing the best that I can. And yes, I curse like a sailor. I love to smoke weed. I drink my wine. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm celibate right now because I choose to be, but I'm not sitting in judgment or criticism myself. I just know that I'm super sensitive. And if you're going to be up at me, you better be worth it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be there for a minute. I don't want to be doing all these like yoni steams and all this extra shit. Just want to have a good time one time. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm actually just like chilling because I'm feeling the energy of my divine counterpart vastly approaching, and I'd rather just bang them out for the rest of my life than just be doing tryouts. Um, but anyway, so all the time, all these spiritual gifts becoming awakened. I'm getting closer and closer to Yeshua. That's how I get in contact with Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene starts awakening things in me. Isis starts awakening things in me. All this divine feminine energy starts being awakened in me, right? Now, meanwhile, I spent my whole life as a masculine energy, right? Single mother household, two daughters. There's no man in the house. Except when there's chaos. So who's her husband? I'm the oldest, right? So I'm fixing shit and I'm killing shit and I'm figuring stuff out and I'm the support now for the baby because her dad is a crackhead, right? And so like now there's all this other stuff happening. Um, and then the divine feminine energy came back to the planet. And it was like, whoa. And that came back. Let's see, my son was born. Son was born 2011. 2012 was when we had that big shift. Um, Energetically in the planet, right? It was like the end of one world and the beginning of another. It was, I believe 2012 was when we started to shift into the age of Aquarius. A lot of indigo and crystal kids were born around that time. Both of my children were born around that time. And a lot of my dormant spiritual gifts became active during that time. Rewind. When I was young, mad sensitive, right? I used to see spirits. I would feel things. I was super fascinated with the occult and tarot cards and stuff like that and fairies. I just was really fascinated with it. Obviously, growing up in a Christian household, all that stuff is kind of looked bad upon. And I would feel stuff too. Like I'd be like, damn, somebody's about to die. My mother would be like, don't say that. And I'm like, I'm not saying like you're gonna die. I'm just saying I feel the energy of death like around. Like I know someone's gonna die. I just don't know who it is. And I would always freak people out. And I realized over the years, I'm like, oh, I guess that does sound kind of like morbid, But it was never like, oh, I feel death. Like it's not like I'm looking at you like you're going to die. Like I'm just like, oh, that sucks. Somebody about to die. All right, and I'm moving on. I remember one time I was in high school and I'm like, felt it again. I'm like, someone's gonna die, and I'm like, but I don't know them. It's like a friend of a friend. And everybody's like, why are you saying that? And I'm like, it's just what I feel. It's the energy that I felt. And what happened? Three friends of friends died. I was like, I told y'all. Like, not trying to be right. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, I'm right that somebody died. But it was like, I know what I feel. You know, I'm super sensitive. I've been sensitive my whole life. Seeing things, feeling things. My mom used to get so mad. She's like, you're always crying, you always care so much, but I feel the pain and the depths of people, right? So it's taken a long time to be able to work with those energies in a discerning manner. When I was around, I want to say I was in elementary school, and actually it was two incidences. So once I was in elementary school, and I was a dancer. And I don't know, I think I might have said like, oh, I hope I'm not sick, or I feel like I'm gonna be sick or whatever for whatever. And I remember my dance teacher being like, don't say that because if you say that, it's gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. So now in my mind, didn't know it at the time, hindsight, it's 2020. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't want to say that I'm really sick because then I'm gonna end up being sick. But what happens when we're saying we're not gonna say something? What are we focusing on? The thing that we don't want to focus on. So I ended up getting sick and not being able to perform in my dance. And I was like the fucking lead. I was so tight. Um, and then another incident when I was in junior high school, there was this kid in my school. He was just such a mm, there was nothing nice about this kid. Nothing nice about him. His energy, I just did not like him as a person. And I don't remember, he said something or did something to me, and I was just like so angry. And I'm just like, oh, I wish something bad would happen to him. Like I was just like so enraged by his disgustingness. And the next day he came to school and he was on crutches. He had gotten hit by a car. When I tell you the guilt and the shame and the pain that I felt for years, carried that with me. For years, I blame myself for that. For years, I was like, nope. So all the power that I had before, shut it down. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Ashes, ashes, dust, dust. I was not having it. 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 And it took years for me to cut that back on. And that was me going through a lot more pain and heartache and getting my heart broken and just like crying out to God, like, fucking hate us and I don't understand why. And look at my life and what's happening. And then like having that peace come over me, having that love coming over me, having that knowledge and wisdom and understanding come over me and being like, I've never hated you. Like I would never hate you. Like I love you so much. Like, and then just like having these realizations and epiphanies coming in, literally just crying out to God and being like, what the fuck, dude? Like, like if we're wrong, we did something wrong, then we're sorry. Like I don't know what else to do. Like what else do you want me to do? Like I was just done. I was so exhausted with like fighting for my life and fighting to be happy and fighting to be stable and fighting in relationships. It's just like what can I win? Can I live? You know? Um so then it was around 2020, I want to say it was probably during the pandemic, I want to say that I was called to not only one, become an ordained minister, which I thought was the funniest shit in the world considering the life that I lived. And two, to really just make this my full time thing. Like, you need to be, this is the work that you came here to do. This is what you need to be doing. I don't know why you're trying to do everything else because restaurants open, restaurants close throughout the years. I worked in the restaurant business for over 20 years, but I'm working at places and they're closing. And restaurants open and close. No big deal. I can open one, I can close one. Boom, 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 boom. But right around the time that I was going to get pregnant with my son, I was like, I couldn't get a job. And that was odd to me, right? I'm me. I always get a job. Like that's the easiest thing in the world. I always have a job. But I couldn't get a job and I could not understand it. And I had been slow and I was always on the move, right? And so I was getting timed out. I was getting slowed down. I was being guided to stay home more. I didn't know that I was about to have a child because I had thought I couldn't have children because throughout the years, with all the miscarriages I had, I was told I probably couldn't have kids. So I had already given up on that. Thought that was another thing that God was mad at me about. Like, now I can't even have kids. What the fuck, son? You know what I mean? But had to take my L. So get my son. As I'm pregnant with him, a lot's happening. And I'm in prayer. And I'm like, God, like, I don't want this to be another lie. I don't know what else to do. I'm giving it to you. This is your child anyway. I'm exhausted. Like, I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of struggling. I'm tired of being worried. I'm tired. Da, 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 da. And my son coming through that portal, the portal never shut, and it's been on 1,000 since that time. I would not, if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be an ordained minister, priestess, healer, reader, and teacher doing YouTube videos and energy work and working with crystals, I would have been like, what are you smoking and where did you get it from? And do you have any more? Because you're bugging. When I got called, and I'm sure I think some of you guys have probably heard the story before, but when I got called to do this work full time, and I'm like, God, you're bugging. I'm looking for restaurant jobs, even restaurant jobs looking for aren't working out, and I could not understand it. Could not. I'm like, why can't I get a fucking job? Why is everything I'm trying to do disconnecting? Like, why is this happening? I was getting so agitated. And it was like, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on the wrong thing. And I'm like, this is what I do. Like, that's why I was culinary school, to do this shit. And it was like, no. And so I got called to do this work full time. And I was adamantly against it. Adamantly against it. I did readings for myself, maybe for a few of my friends. I didn't mind the coaching stuff because I had been doing it my whole life. It's innate to me. It's just who I am as a person. If you come to me, I'm gonna help you in some type of way because God works through me that way. It's what it is. Like, I don't question the guidance that comes through me. I don't question because every single person, and I get people from all types of life that come to me, and God works through me and goes to them, and we've fixed so many things. I've watched so many miracles happen. So the people that don't believe in miracles, I'm like, you're bugging. You need to open your eyes. Miracles happen every fucking day. Literally, miracles happen every day. And I'm not just talking about the miraculous of like cancer going from like you had cancer, terminal cancer one day to not having it the next day. I'm talking like big and little miracles happen every day if you open your eyes. Open your eyes. Anyway, so then when, I'm doing readings for myself, I'm diving deep into this work, I'm doing the training for myself. I wanted to go deeper for my own spiritual growth and evolution and ascension, right? That's why I started on this fast. I said it. So I'm readings for myself more, I'm connecting with divine feminine energies, and I'm praying, I'm talking to Yeshua, and he's, connecting me with Mary Magdalene, and then the portal for the divine feminine started opening, and the divine feminine energy started coming back in. So then I'm healing my divine feminine, I'm healing my relationship with my divine masculine, and I'm doing all this inner work for myself, for my own healing and my own growth, because again, I knew that I wanted to heal for me and for my children. No point was I trying to sign up for this on a global level consciously. Obviously, I did it, spiritually, but consciously I wasn't trying to do that because consciously I've always been in the background. I'm not trying to be on the stage. I'm not trying to be in front of a camera. I'm not trying to talk to people and do hair and makeup every day because people judge you and people have a comment. And what if you don't have any privacy anymore? And I went through all the fucking conversations. I like my privacy. I don't want to feel like I'm always having to like put my face on or my hair on. If somebody says something crazy to me, I might actually punch them in the face, and I don't think that's very holy. And I went through all of these arguments. All the reasons why I shouldn't be doing spiritual work. Life coach, absolutely, Lord. You want me to do that? Fantastic. I do it every day anyway. Give me the platform and I'll do it bigger. No problem. Sex coach, easy. Can do that shit with my eyes closed. I've been teaching people how to fuck their whole lives. I got you. I had to show my mom and my sister how to give head. I'm that good. It's real talk. That's real talk. Um, with the spirituality stuff, I was like, the number you have reached is no longer in service, right? Like I was just like, you're bugging. And I literally was like, I'm misunderstanding the message. No, not doing that, not doing that. So there was one day that the messages, the channels, the downloads were just getting so strong. And I'm like going back and forth with my team of light. Like, I am not doing this. Y'all are bugging. I'm a crazy black chick from fucking Harlem who used to do porn, work in the restaurant business, loves to fucking drink fucking tequila and wine and smoke blunts. I'm not talking to people about Jesus and angels and fairies because if they say the wrong thing about my beliefs, I might punch them in the face. Like I literally was like, I'm not doing. Y'all are bugging. You're bugging. I'm nobody's fucking preacher. If you want me to be a little, because I do. People used to talk to me all the time and they're like, Autumn, you're like little hood, preacher. Like you say it in a manner so that people in the hood get it. And I'm like, y'all are ignoring the alcoholics in front of the freaking store, but they're not stupid. They might be a little drunk, but if you pay attention, there's pockets of information there. And I'm going to talk to you in a way that you understand. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you get more slang, then that's how I'm going to speak to you. But if you're more of a proper person, then that's how I'm going to speak to you. I am educated. I can have conversations with people in very different realms about different things. You know what I mean? So going back and forth with the divine about it, back and forth. This reason I shouldn't do it, and what about this, and what about this? And I went through a list. When I tell you it was hours of me arguing with my fucking angels, right? In my head for the most part. And I mean out loud too. 'Cause I was like walking back, pacing in my house, like arguing. And every time I heard a new argument, my egoic mind was like on it. So finally, I heard, "Are you done?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I thought I had, killed it. I was like, close an argument, Supreme Court case, boom, bitch did it. And at the end of all of that bullshit, I heard, "It's not about you." It was like a in the stomach. When I tell you, I literally felt my stomach go. I was like, haven't said another word about it since, and been doing my job ever since. I clock in every fucking day. Every day I clock in. Half the time I don't even know what we're doing. I'll be like, "What we doing today, Lord? Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom?" In the words of Neil Donald Walsh, right? Like those are the things. So every day I open myself up to channeling. Every day I open myself up to the collective. I put myself out there for people because you know what? Despite the fact that like I don't necessarily like being in the forefront, I know that I help a lot of people. And if I've only even helped one person, then I've done my job. Then I did my job because we have a connection here. We have a contract with each other as souls. And so me and my tribe, you guys, I came forth so that you guys can come forth. When I sit in my authenticity and I stop hiding behind the fucking cameras and I stop trying to pretend like I'm less than, then I give all of you guys permission to do the same. Because guess what? I am in love with you guys, right? Because I'm in love with myself and I want you guys to fall so deeply in love with yourselves that you have no choice but to be the best version of yourselves. And so I'm sitting here and I'm being authentic and I'm putting my shit out on the street and I'm giving you guys my whole fucking business for some reason because you need to be authentic. Like it's time for people to see you, hear you, and feel you for however that is, whatever it is, whatever that means to you, however you choose to show up in this lifetime. Okay, so that's the story of Autumn and the Enlightened Daughter. So yeah, past what 3 years solid, just on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, doing coachings, doing readings, doing calls, doing healings. Um, really working with the powers of manifestation and energy and just healing all of that and doing a lot of activations and healings for you guys, whether you guys are aware of it or not, But I know that anyone that sees my face, hears my voice, or clicks on my video will then have the healing and transformation go through them, right? There's a healing and an activation and transformation going through this video at this time too. That's waking up your luminosity and your sovereignty and having a remembrance come forward so that you can stand in your authenticity and speak your truth. So don't be surprised after this transmission if you have some clearing going on in your throat chakra or your solar plexus because I'm bringing you back to you. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here because I think I've spent enough time talking about myself today. So once again, you guys know me. I'm Autumn, the Enlightened Daughter. Hit me up on my website. Hit me up here. I always interact. I love to hear from you guys. I love you so very much. God loves you. Angels surround you. You're fucking magnificent. Now go out the world and show the world who the fuck you really are. All right. And if they don't like it, tell them to come see me and they can kiss both of our asses.